Here are 5 spoiler-free tips to start you off right in Metaphor ReFantazio. Tip number 1. Very early on in the game, you'll be able to choose your stat growth for the entirety of the game. By selecting one of these 5 options, the way the main character grows each time they level up will be greatly influenced by this choice. So it is a big deal, but fear not for those of you who don't know exactly what you want to do yet, because every time you level up, you get skill points that you can allocate manually. Best of all, you don't have to allocate them right away, so you can hoard them, and then once you make the decision on how you want to build your main character, you can then commit the points. You'll be a little bit weaker early on, but if you're indecisive, this could be a way to move forward without worrying too much. For the initial choice, if you are not sure, the general rule of thumb is this. If you're more experienced and are willing to commit to a certain build that you have in mind, so if you want to be a physical attacker or a magic caster, then pick the strength or the magic option. And if you're not really sure which way you want to swing yet, you can't go wrong with speed or endurance. If you are brand new to these types of games and again, you don't know what you want to build, endurance is going to be your best bet because it will allow you to make more mistakes. At the end of the day, thanks to the manual stat allocations you get in addition to the static level ups, alongside the fact that archetypes do change your stats a bit, so if you're equipping a mage, your magic stat will go up and your strength stat will go down. It might not be optimal, but you'll definitely be able to tackle the hardest challenges in the game as long as you take the time to learn the game mechanics. Speaking of game mechanics, let's talk about tip number 2. The press turn system returns in Metaphor ReFantazio, but with a slight twist. So if you played Persona 3, 4, or 5, the slight change that's being implemented in this game is going to have a huge impact on your decision making, especially against challenging opponents. At least it did for me. The squad battle combat system in Metaphor ReFantazio is all centered around turn icons. The general rule of thumb is that you get enough turn icons to cover 1 turn for each party member. And enemies will have the same unless you're playing in hard mode, then they'll get 1 additional turn icon just because. Anyways, most actions will consume 1 turn icon and team attacks will consume 2. Once a character consumes a turn icon, it goes to the next character, but there are certain actions that only use up half a turn icon, like passing your turn to the next teammate or hitting an enemy's weakness. When a turn icon is halved, you can use it just as if it were a full turn icon. However, it is important to note that you are not gaining a turn icon. So if you were to pass again or hit another enemy's weakness, you will consume the remaining half of the turn icon. Unless you have multiple turn icons like the example on screen, the game will prioritize a full icon to expend half off of first, so you still get a little bit more turn economy by abusing weaknesses, but you're technically not gaining, you're just using less of a turn icon. So you might have a lot less turns than you think by abusing enemy's weakness. This is different from the ability to just constantly chain more turns by hitting an enemy's weakness and not giving your enemy a chance to act at all. Too long didn't read? Just remember that hitting a weakness does not give you an additional turn. It consumes half a turn order, like passing to the next ally. So if you only see 1 small icon on the top of your screen, just know that whatever you do, your turn's gonna end after. Tip number 3, no matter what build you're doing, unlock the mage very early on your main character. Not only do they get early skills in fire, ice, and lightning to hit weaknesses early on that you can inherit to other classes, but their main power comes from their overworld attacking ability, where each time in the action mode where you slay an enemy with the mage, you gain MP back for not only you, but your entire party. So if you're in a hard dungeon, this is going to be the most efficient, cost-effective way to gain MP back, especially if you're sniping the enemies that can be one-shotted in this action mode, so enemies who are much weaker than you in level. I spent all of my potions on that extra side boss in the demo, and then after using all the MP items to get by the skin of my teeth, I found out about this trick. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's a little bit of a mage bias for the main character. The first 2 party members you get are melee attackers with good endurance and strength, but not a lot of magic. The mage class not only has good coverage and an amazing passive ability in the overworld, but also the attack animations cover so much range. It's like a AoE circular nuke that you can just do over and over again to stun all the enemies. It's so much more efficient and fluid than something like a spear or even your sword starting out. Anyways, with that said, how are you going to be building your characters in Metaphor ReFantazio? Let us know in the comments below. My main character is going with a pure physical build, glass cannon. I just want to punch things to death because big damage numbers makes me happy. If you're having a good time so far, hit that like button, support your boy, and consider subscribing for more Metaphor ReFantazio content. Thanks. Tip number 4, time management matters a lot in Metaphor ReFantazio, so keep in mind what you do each day. If you are a chronic min-maxer like I am, be very careful with this game. Unless you're using a guide to go day by day, you're probably gonna miss something in this game. It could be major, it could be minor, but whatever it is, just expect to not be able to get the full scope of the game in your first playthrough. My viewpoint on this has changed over time. I really enjoy consequences in games now, like missing stuff makes the experience a lot more meaningful for me. If you did want to go in blind, grind, but you're still a chronic min-maxer, I got you. Here are some general tips that I would highly recommend in the early game you do, so that way your experience is a lot smoother going forward. The first thing is to focus heavily on your virtues. These are your social stats that gate you from content in this game. You might need a certain amount of wisdom or imagination to talk to somebody to get a side quest, to get a cool new archetype or a weapon. So this is very important to level up early. Different virtues have different thresholds before they level up. For example, wisdom is the easiest to level from level 1 to level 2, but gets a lot harder from level 2 to level 3. And the numbers are slightly different for each virtue. The game highly encourages you to level up wisdom early, and I would recommend doing the same. It unlocks a side quest for you that can get you a new archetype and some good loot, and it unlocks a purification system of weapons and armor that can let you use very strong weapon and gear early on. So in the first free day you have, I highly recommend working on wisdom not only during the day, but also at night. There's a side quest you can do that will take you to a certain inn to perform an action at night, so that way you can get wisdom the next day. Do this ASAP if you are worried about min-maxing but still want to go in blind. Outside of that one specific suggestion, I highly recommend spending your first month leveling up your virtues as much as possible. And if you're not sure what to focus on first, do it based on the archetype that you want. Followers you can develop bonds with in this game will probably align to one specific virtue, and the game will probably give you a good idea on what that is, so follow that if you're looking to develop a specific archetype or bond with a character. These bonds and follower quests give you more than archetypes. Sometimes they give you really good items. For example, there is a quest that you can get really early on when you unlock the healer to train it up to level 10. When you complete this quest, you get points in your virtues, bond levels with the character, and also a super rad ability that lets you unlock archetypes and archetype skills and mess with skill inheritance anytime you want outside of combat by just going through the pause menu. Hopefully this showcases how the game can open up by just focusing on bonds early. Before we move on, if you have any tips of your own that you would like to share with the community, leave it in the comments below and try to keep it spoiler free. With that said, let's move on to the final tip. And this goes for every single long-form JRPG that you can play with consequences and choice. Take your time. At various points in the game, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna make some dumb choices, you're gonna miss out on things, and that's okay. It will not feel good at any point in time, but it will uniquely color your experiences. Make the choices that you would want to, not because it gives you the most optimal level gains or strong items or whatever. Pick based on what resonates with your heart the most. If Atlus's older games are any indication, we're probably going to get a new Game Plus build for Metaphor ReFantazio, so you can start the story with fully maxed out virtues or strong items or whatever for your second playthrough. And I have a sinking suspicion that the choice of stat allocations from the first tip might be changeable later on in the story too, but only time will tell. If you are someone who is indecisive or a chronic min-maxer, I hope I equipped you with the right mindset to move forward without distress. As I discover more about Metaphor ReFantazio, I'll be sure to put out more videos and guides to help you through your journey without spoiling the surprises that lay in wait for all of us. If that's something that's interesting to you, be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. For more Metaphor ReFantazio content, check out this video on screen right now. My name is Varsona, and I'll see you in the next video.